Hello, a very good morning to all of you. Today we are going to discuss the case note of Joe Black. So we do have a case of permanent paraplegia due to an accident. This is a third-year Bachelor of Law at Oxford University. His name is Mr. Black. His date of birth is 1994. So we are going to write to an occupational therapist in charge, and her name is Monica Osborne. Okay, so she's in charge for the rehabilitation patient. Occupational therapist in charge for the rehabilitation patients. And you are in charge of the occupation of the rehabilitation ward. You have to write to Ms. Osborne to request assessment of Joe's disability level, as well as necessary aids, support and therapy in order to help him adapt and regain independency to live a life as close as possible to normal. Being said, I have to drag your attention to some of the problems here in the question here, because we have if you search, you'll be getting two questions. Joe Black case notes, you'll be getting two case notes. This is the second one. I don't have the first one with me, but I remember the date was very different in the other case note. It was a date which is much earlier. And that time, in that case note, it was Joe, that the first name of the patient. Here, if you see, the date is discharged one is 21 July 2021, and you can see the date of birth of the patient is 1994. Now he is 27 years old at this time. So I cannot call him Joe. I have to address him as Mr. and I have to say Black. So that's it. Though I cannot go ahead with simply Joe. Please don't do that. Because as per this case note, I don't have the previous one. We have two different case notes of Joe Black. Here we have the date of birth 1994 and the discharge rate is 2021. So you calculate it's around 26, 27. So it's Mr. Black. This is the first problem I find with this case note. Another thing, that something was here, that's today's date. And today's date, it was written as 20 July 2021, and the discharge date was 21 July. So let's go with the second problem, what the problem is. You are writing to an occupational therapist. Here it is. Your discharge date is 21. And if today's date is 20 July 2021, I won't be getting enough time to assess the client, and I won't be getting enough time to make necessary arrangements and modifications at his home. So if it is in this date, if you are writing the letter on this date, you'll be having enough time for doing all these things. This is the second problem here, which I find. Now, these two issues, no, these two issues are there. One more issue is there in with this letter, and that's about that's not an issue. That's what we have to include or not, whether we need to include or not this particular thing. So if you are writing to the occupational therapist and you are writing to home modification or writing requesting more home modification, whether you need this particular data or not, that he lives in a fairly two-story house in a steep hill. There are 10 steps in front entrance. So it's a description of the house which he lives. So actually we are sending the occupational therapist to the house of Mr. Black, and the occupational therapist or her team will be visiting the home, assessing the home, and then only they do the modification. So they are actually saying it. And we have, as the patient is paraplegic and he's confined to the wheelchair, he cannot go independently down the stairs through the entrance outside, or he cannot run through the steep hills. So this is a distraction which is there. Now you are focusing on this thing. Okay, you need to highlight because this is something very serious. No, that's not that much serious. You have to give focus on the home modification. You have to give focus on the type, the way which we need to modify the home. So that's where the focus is, and this is not the focus. If you want to say something about this, you can say the home setting is different. So it's a different home setting for Mr. Black. So you need home modification because of the different home setting, you can say. So you are going to, occupation therapist is going to visit Joe Black's home, and her team is going to make modifications there. So this is what the thing is. Now, you are a nurse in charge of the rehabilitation ward at a Manuel Ortho Hospital. So I need to mark the important things here, the name, okay, the background information, the date of birth, and you can say the third year bachelor student. So I have taken what we need here, name, date of birth, what's he, okay. And if you want to say indirectly, you can say indirectly. It's not a thing that you have to say directly, and if, because you won't be getting enough space to write this thing. And the current admission, you have to brief what happened. So it was a motorbike accident and multiple fractures, spinal cord injury, emergency surgical treatment. So that's what here. Now we have the transfer to orthopedic surgical ward or whatever it is. So this day he got transferred to the orthopedic rehabilitation ward, physiotherapy rehabilitation. Okay, so coping, all these things are there. Then what we can see is the main content of the letter. We need to focus on the present condition. We need to give him importance to how the patient is. The patient is mobilizing. and he has regained full strength of upper arms and body muscles. Yeah, here it is. He is worried to return home due to the home setting. So the home setting, you have um, your home is not fit for you know that it's not he cannot cope with the home situation. So it it's somewhere on the steep hill, whatever it is, and we don't have a handicap friendly atmosphere there. So the home setting is different. As he has a permanent paraplegia, he needs some support to do his activities independently. As and you know, need to say that he has to become uh, he has to do his activities as normal as this normal life. This is why we are seeking help of an occupational therapist. So you need to enhance the rehabilitation process. So that's why we are requesting the help of an occupational therapist. We have initiated the rehabilitation therapy, and we have initiated physiotherapy. All these things are there. So I need to enhance the rehabilitation therapy with the help of an occupational therapist right now. The patient is moving back his home. So at his home, he needs to continue the rehabilitation therapy. And the main person who can help here is the occupational therapist. So that's why we are writing this letter to the occupational therapist here. And we have given the discharge date here is because now the patient is at the rehabilitation ward, and you are the in charge of the ward. You are requesting Miss Osborne to visit him at the hospital and assess the disability level. So you have occupational therapist referral for patient disability assessment. So why we need to assess the disability is because we need to plan further rehabilitation to help him gain independency as much as possible. You know that there are some permanent difficulties there. So we need to adjust with those situations, and we need to help him gain independency to the maximum level. Now we have to see that home assessment things are there with the occupational therapists have to go with certain specific things here. Ramp over chairs, double doors, bathroom, toilet, disability rails, commode, showering chair. And on top of that, she has to make arrangements to support and teach him by visiting him daily for another 2 weeks after discharge. And these are the things that we have to see in the discharge plan. So all the non-medical cases are there. So it's not the medical cases we need to address with, we need to discuss with the occupational therapist. The non-medical cases are there. After assessing the physical disability level, occupational therapist is requested to visit his home to make modifications for Mr. Black. Now, let us go. It's 7 July. We are writing well ahead of the discharge. Ms. Osborne, Joe Black, date of birth 1994. I'm writing to refer Mr. Joe Black, a third-year Bachelor of Law student who has permanent paraplegia. He requires disability assessment at the hospital and home modifications before his discharge on 21. So he's going to discharge on 21st July. Before that, he needs disability assessment at the hospital and home modifications before he returns. So Black was admitted to Mount Hospital following a bike accident. Oh, okay. So this is the thing here. I need to make some changes here. I don't need to write these things in detail. So I need to brief this paragraph because you are writing to the occupational therapist. I can minimize the data which is related, which is medically related. So I need to focus on the current thing. So I don't need to give a history where he was admitted, how he was admitted, all these things. I just need to brief what happened to him. Mr. Black was okay. So I can correct like this. Mr. Black met with a motorbike accident and multiple suffered suffered serious injuries and multiple fractures for which he underwent an emergency surgical treatment. Okay. Um, subsequent post-operative assessment confirmed that he has permanent paraplegia. I have said that in the permanent disability due to nerve damage. Okay. So I have trimmed the data. I just need this thing. I just need to give an overview of what happened to Mr. Black. So it's clearly given. Mr. Black was transferred to our care. Okay. Our hospital now. Our hospital the next day. Uh, for care, for further care, physiotherapy, and rehabilitation. Okay, so I can say like that. The next day for further care, physiotherapy, and rehabilitation. In about 22 days stay, that's 22 days stay. It's 15. It's 11 and it's 7. 11. No. I can't write that 22 days stay. I will go with at our care. He regained full strength of his arms and upper body muscles. However, is concerned of performing his routine activities once he returns home. And this is because of the home setting. Okay. Okay, now I can go with. Okay, so at our care, he regained full strength of his arms and upper body muscles. However, is concerned of performing his routine activities once he returns due to home setting. Is discharged. Okay, now I have I have said that he has a different home setting here, and he's worried of the home setting. And that's the reason why we are referring to Miss Osborne. In view of the above, so we have said two paragraphs. So the first paragraph, we said what happened, and the second paragraph, we said what care we have given and the current status of Mr. Black. Now, in view of the above, so all these two paragraphs we have said, we have briefed out what happened to Black and his condition. So the major paragraph is there. It's coming. And this, as this letter is to the occupational therapist, you have to focus on his responsibilities or her responsibilities. It would be appreciated if you could assess the extent of Mr. Black's physical disability and make arrangements for enhancing his independence in carrying out his activities of daily life. So I would trim it again. It would be appreciated if you could assess the extent of Mr. Black's physical disability. Yeah, for enhancing his independence. It would also be highly beneficial if you could assess the situation, or if you could visit his home and make necessary modifications, including the installation of ramp over the stairs, double doors, disability rails, and commode showering chair. All these things you have to explain. So we have to say we are writing to the occupational therapist, and these things become, it's imperative to write these things here. Now, kindly make arrangements for daily home visits for at least 2 weeks to teach and support him with the aforementioned modifications. So that's how we have presented the letter, and this is the body paragraph of the letter. It goes around 197 words here. Studenti, even though we have tried to include all these things, so we have included all the relevant data, and we have organized in a better way. We have made it a little bit more formal, and this is the final frame. Okay, so you're sincerely, you go with the nurse in charge as given in the address, rehabilitation ward, Emmanuel Ortho Hospital. Okay, thank you. And that is this is how the letter looks. Thank you.